July 2nd, 2020. From El Cajon, California, this is episode 212 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. My name is Mark Duvall, and sitting across from me at a safe distance is Dr. Mike.
Hello.
Well, we have been Skyping lately during our podcasts to be safe and to be a good example, but we couldn't do it tonight, could we, Dr. Mike?
No. My daughters took the iPads.
So all the electronics that you would have been able to use to Skype to me are out of the house.
Right? Yep.
And for me to try to walk you through installing Skype on your phone and using it there or Zoom
that would
anything.
be impossible, Mark.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So we're together again in the studio, but we both have masks on. We're playing it safe. We're being good citizens.
And just so everyone knows, Mark is sitting across from me wearing a shirt that says, "I'm silently correcting your grammar." And our definitions of silently are completely opposite.
All right, well, grammatically, it's correct, right? But whether I'm really silent or not, that's the question.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I just want the truth. That's all I'm asking for.
You just don't like the lying.
Yeah, I don't like the lying.
Yeah, sure. That's great. Well, we were very close to getting a bill here in California that would have legalized sports wagering. There was a bill that was headed to the California Senate Appropriations Committee, and it was pulled the day before it was to be voted on due to opposition from tribal casinos. The tribes didn't like the fact that it would immediately allow for online wagering, and they didn't like that it would continue to allow card rooms in California to deal Nevada-style table games with private entities banking. We've talked about this before. The card rooms in California, not the full-blown tribal casinos, they get away with dealing these games like blackjack, like Mississippi stud games like that. They get away with it because they just charge a commission to players, and then a separate entity, just a person, a private person, acts as bank. And really, it's not so much a private person as like these syndicates.
It's a syndicate, right?
Right. So the casinos didn't like that. It didn't really address what they think is a crime that these card rooms are committing. They think it's illegal. That's their stance on it. Of course, they're looking at it that way because they want a monopoly on it.
They want a monopoly. You know, it's funny because they're complaining about that, even the online betting. But they had no problem taking money away from Vegas when they opened, when all the Indian casinos got casinos.
Right, exactly.
They had no problem taking money away from Vegas. And now somebody might take a little money away from them by, betting online.
It's just politics, and it's a typical kind of thing. One thing that did surprise us, though, is that the proposal that the tribes came out with initially was that sports wagering would be legal, but all wagers would have to be made in person at the casinos. They are very scared that online wagering is going to hurt the bottom line of the brick and mortar casinos. And I just don't understand that.
Well, I think somebody who wants to play blackjack or craps or go to the casino for the bar or the entertainment or whatever is still going to go. They're not going to online sports bet and then say, "Oh, I bet enough this week. I'm not going to go play craps."
The only thing I can figure is that if they don't allow online wagering, that means people who really want to bet on sports will go to the casino and then they'll spend their money at other games.
Right. And that's their whole motive.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that would be great. I'd have no problem with that if their casinos were anywhere near anything.
That's the thing, right?
Because seriously, we couldn't go every day.
No.
It's feasibly not possible just from where they're located, right?
And we actually live closer to casinos than a lot of people in California, right? I should say tribal casinos because, those are the full-blown ones. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it would be a chore even to go to the closest one, which would be Verona. Mm-hmm. It would still be like 20 minutes to get there, 20 minutes to get back, and 20 minutes there.
Yeah, and
that would be best case scenario.
And then later in the day, if you wanted to make more bets, you couldn't go, right? That's what's nice about online is, okay, here's the morning games are done. Now what am I going to do on the afternoon games?
Right, like during college football, we bet more if we're down. And if we won, we bet more in the afternoon too.
Way more in the afternoon, yeah, that's for sure. Well, the proposals that are now being bandied about would only allow sports betting in person at tribal casinos, not at racetracks. That was another thing, too, that they didn't like the idea that this original bill would allow it to take place at racetracks as well. But you'd have to do it in person at tribal casinos with the possibility of slowly phasing in online wagering over the next few years. In any case, it looks like sports wagering here is farther away than we'd hoped. We were hoping to see something on the ballot in November, and it's looking less likely that that will happen. There is some good news, though. If sports wagering is finally legalized here in California, chances are very good that real craps and roulette will also be legalized at tribal casinos as part of that legislation.
Tacked onto the bill.
Yeah, so that's good.
Another thing that bothers me is there's a lot of different ways to think about things. And why doesn't the casino think, hey, we'll have wagering. Online's not going to hurt us because on Saturday of college football or Sunday, we're going to have a big, party
Promote
here.
it.
We're going to promote this, the heck out of it, and we're going to get people here, and they'll be doing their betting here. Maybe on, Tuesday night they're not betting.
Right.
But on Saturday, Sunday, we're going to get them here, and we're going to keep them here all day. Because there's football games all day. So they'll be betting, and they'll probably want to drink, and they'll probably want to spend money, and they'll probably go do other stuff.
Sure, or they'll come with a spouse who's going to go off and, play other games. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I just think they're kind of losing out on money.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at this kind of from our own perspective. We want to be able to bet on sports legally. We want to be able to do it online so we don't have to go to the casino. But I agree with you, Mike. I think in a way, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot.
Right. Yeah, that's what I think. It's never good to drive business away.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, even if you think, in the short run, it might help you. In the long run, it's never good to drive business away.
Yeah. Well, as longtime listeners will recall, at Harrah, Southern California, where we often go, before the pandemic, they had 4 craps tables. They weren't always open, of course, but generally on a weekend night, busy night, they would all 4 be open. And we were disappointed when they reopened that they only had 2 regular craps tables. They had also installed a roll-to-win craps table, which is that hybrid machine dealer table, but only 2 regular craps tables. Well, we were very pleased when we found out that they were adding a 3rd craps table. And in fact, when we went out there a few weeks ago, they had it, semi-set up. I guess they weren't quite ready to start using it, but it was there. The chips were there.
That was on Friday, but on Saturday, I did play on it.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Oh, okay. So I didn't realize that. Well, okay. Yeah. So a 3rd table. So we were very pleased with that. Well, that was short-lived because now it turns out they're going to bring in another roll-to-win table, and that's what's going to go in its place.
Right.
So we're down again to just 2 craps tables, and that definitely came into play this last Saturday when you and I went. It was a big giveaway Saturday, and so we figured it would be crowded. You and I had to go up there separately. I was doing some things kind of out of town, and so we just decided to meet there. And you got there first, and you weren't even able to get on the table, right?
No, I waited about an hour.
And they were both $25 tables, right?
Right, both $25 tables. They moved the one up to $50, and still nobody left. So I waited about an hour. Finally, somebody left. I got his seat. And then you were about, I'd say another hour before you came. And in that hour, nobody left.
Yeah.
I mean, I got the one seat. So in the 2-hour period, there was just one seat that came available. And there were a lot of other people waiting.
Yep. And what I did when I arrived, they actually let me kind of bet with you. So I was actually sitting back a ways from the table, and I had some chips, and I would just give you chips to bet for me. That actually worked fine. I had no problem with that, although it would have been nice to actually be up in the table and be able to throw the dice. But finally, I got in maybe about an hour after that. But yeah, for most of the night, a $50 table and a $25 table, and they were full.
It's so funny because what had happened is they weren't expecting the new roll-to-win table to come. It was going to be like sometime at the end of July or August. This is what I was told. But for some reason, the manufacturer said, we'll have it there Monday. So that Saturday morning, they decided to take the 3rd craps table out and get all the electrical stuff ready for put it in Monday. And I said to one of the casino managers who was talking to me about, we'll get you on as soon as we can. He was being very nice. I said, well, why did you guys take it out now? Why wouldn't you just wait until Sunday morning or Monday morning? I mean, this is your busiest night. You need that table. And he's like, I know. Somebody made a bad decision. And I was talking to my wife later, and I'm like, it's just a bad decision, like the carpet, like the cafe, just bad decisions.
Well, shoot, I sure hope they get some more regular craps tables there, but I don't think it's going to happen now. They don't really have the space for it, and they may not have the dealers for it, to be honest.
Yeah,
also
and that's
at this
probably
point.
a problem too. Yeah. But the thing is it's a craps casino.
Yep,
there are a ton of people who want to play.
Yep.
And maybe what they'll do is the 2 roll to win tables will be $5 tables, and the other 2 will be 25 or higher.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to have to be, going forward. Yeah. Well, we typically do not speak ill of people that we know on the show, at least. Of course, we do it privately. I mean, that's just part of being a person. But if we do talk about somebody poorly, we don't mention their name. But doggone it, I'm going to mention this guy's name, Mike.
All right. Okay. All right. I have nothing to do with this.
All right. I really feel like I need to call this guy out. Okay. His name is Jay. He's a regular player at Harrah's Southern California. I'm sure he doesn't listen to the show, but regulars there who do listen to the show, you all know who Jay is if you play craps. He's kind of a fixture there.
Right.
And what's his personality like? I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag. He's not that great when he drinks. He's not like loud and in your face, but he's rude.
He's a little coarser, let's say.
That's a good way to put it.
When he's drunk.
Yeah. So the other night we're out there and Jay is on our table. And the table was getting a fill. That's when they bring chips to the table. When the table's low on chips, the security guard brings chips to the table and they count them out and put them there. At some casinos, the game will continue during a fill. But at Harrah's Southern California, they stopped the game. So I thought, okay, good. This will be my chance to go to the restroom. So I went to the restroom and I'm in there and I finish up my business and I'm washing my hands and I see Jay in there. And he finishes his business, walks out. Doesn't wash his hands, okay?
Yeah.
Now, that's disgusting as enough under normal circumstances. But we're in a pandemic,
right?
And he's just walking by the sinks.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So I go back to the table, and I tell the dealers, hey, I just came out of the restroom. Jay didn't wash his hands. I mean, it's the kind of thing where maybe I wouldn't have said anything under normal circumstances, but we're in a pandemic.
Right. And,
I wanted people to know.
Well, you're at a table where you're touching the chips that he's touching.
Yeah.
So,
I tell them that, and their eyes kind of get wide. And one of the dealers handed him the squirt bottle of the disinfectant for his hands. And he sort of angrily
brushed them off.
Yeah, kind of with his hand. No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, absolutely horrendous. So I am calling out Jay. What a terrible thing to do under these circumstances.
Yeah. Well, I've told people, patients and people I know, there are 2 things to be learned from this pandemic that I think are the 2 big take-home things. And I wish you would hear more about this. I hear all kinds of political talk and all kinds of crap.
Sure.
But the 2 things that I think are important is, number 1, when you're sick, don't go out. Don't get your hair done. Don't go to the casino. Don't go to work.
Yeah.
Don't go to the market. Don't go to the movies. If you're sick, just stay home for a couple days and get better.
Yeah.
And then, once you know you're better and you're not going to spread anything, not just for coronavirus, that's for flus, whatever, colds, everything. And then number 2 is wash your hands.
Yes.
People need to wash their hands more. I mean, I always have. That's why my hands are so beat up. I mean, my job kind of requires that.
Yeah, sure.
But people should just wash their hands a little more.
Yeah.
And that would stop the spread of things. And, somebody walking out of a bathroom in a casino where you touched up without washing your hands is pretty inconsiderate.
Okay, that's a nice way to put it.
I'm going to put it that way, in a nice way. There's other language I'd use normally if it was just you and I, but it's not good. And I don't blame you for calling him out.
Yeah.
So that's my take.
Okay. Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. I mean, the hand washing, it goes, and people think, oh, I didn't really do much in the bathroom.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, right? This is your opportunity to wash your hands.
Right. Well, that's it. And that's my point.
Yeah.
Every opportunity you get to wash your hands is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had Just on a side note, I had somebody tell me recently that, I don't really have to touch anything. I can just unzip my pants. I don't really have to touch anything. And I'm like, but you're in a bathroom. And, you did have to touch your zipper.
Right.
So I don't know if you didn't touch anything.
All right. So at least I got that off my chest.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first, youcanbetonthat.com, and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. All right, let's get on to some voicemails. Remember last episode, William was on his way to Horseshoe Bossier City, and he said he would call back with a report. So you ready to hear it, Mike?
I do.
All right.
I want to hear about Bossier City.
All right, here we go.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is William from Fort Worth with a trip report. I really enjoy listening to everybody else's trip reports, so I figured I should give one myself. So this was at Horseshoe Bossier City. Basically, I had 24 hours, and I had not played craps in a long, long time, especially not seriously. But after listening to 209 episodes of you guys, I was very ready for a serious craps run. So the good news is, after I get my tier credit multiplier, I will be a member of the Degenerate 7 Stars Club. The bad news is, it'll probably be a while before I can afford fuel or certainly an airline ticket to get to a casino after this craps run. But a quick casino overview, masks were required at the tables, not if you're walking around or playing slots. And the tables are pretty crowded even for a weeknight. But okay, so I finally got to the craps table. It was $15 minimum, all tall, small, paid $175 and $34 for the smaller tall. I'd never played this bet before. I did discover that is a crusher of a bet if you don't ever hit it, because I was playing 10-10-10 every time. So I got to the table, and the guy was rolling, so I waited. He hit a couple points, and then I bought in for $1,000, and he hit 2 points, which was great. I was being lazy. It was a $15 table. I was putting $25 on the pass line. I guess it was easier than 3 chips, and I was putting 100 odds, and I would do the same with 2 come bets if I had that opportunity. So I bet some hard ways for the dealers, and they were very appreciative. Problem was then we went about 15, no, not about, it was exactly 15 shooters without hitting a point.
Yeah.
And that didn't go well. My initial $1,000 buy-in was long gone. I got a marker for 2,000 more. Ran through that pretty quickly. And after around the 10th shooter with no point, I started bumping up my odds in my pass line bet to 150, maybe 200, I think when we had a 6 or 8 once or twice. And then I had to found two $500 chips in my pocket. Use those because I kept hearing you guys say you got to wait it out for the big roll. So I kept trying to wait it out for the big roll. Problem is, $4,000, the big roll didn't happen in about, I don't know, probably 35, 45 minutes. I don't mind losing 5 or 10,000 for a long weekend in Vegas. That happens. Usually that's what happens if we play a lot. But, man, 4,000, 45-minute craps table, that can't work very often for me. But I actually I still had a good time. But since you guys are my official craps coaches, do you have any advice? Anything I should do differently? I knew I should have only put 15 on the pass line with more odds behind it. But that's my story, guys. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, what can you do differently when 15 shooters in a row fail to make a point? I mean, bet the don't.
Well,
what else can we say?
Let me tell you this, William. You're beating the odds. Because, somebody should have made a point.
Yeah. And Mike, you and I have talked about this many times where we will lose so much money on a session, way more than we would on a typical Vegas trip.
Right.
And it just blows our minds.
Right. Yeah, we go out to Harrah's for 4 hours and lose more than we do in a whole weekend in Vegas. And we're like, how in the world does that happen, right? We're baffled on the way home. And I mean, it's a nasty ride home. It's hard on Mark.
So, yeah, you got that right. Oh, yeah, you did say a while back, the thing about craps is just being able to survive until you get to that roll. And,
that is
and I know
true.
what you're saying. Yeah,
That is true. It's just that sometimes that roll doesn't come. Or, William, it came 10 minutes after you left. Right? I always think that walking away is like, oh, God, I know I'm going to walk away. And 10 minutes later, somebody's going to roll 6 to the fire, and everyone's going to be going home happy but me. Yep. And it's just the way it is sometimes.
Yep. And the all small tall, yeah, if you're not hitting that, you've even mentioned how you kind of prefer the fire bet because you're not constantly putting money out there.
Right.
But all small tall, if it's not hitting, that's quite a drain on your bankroll.
Yeah, and especially on sevens on the come out.
Yeah, right.
You bet it. You've got $30 out there to 7 come out. You got to replace that 30. You know, the fire bet just stays there.
Right.
And you know, that's why they got rid of the fire bet, right?
Right.
Because they're making a fortune on the all tall, all small. Now, when it hits, it's great.
Sure.
And you really feel good. And if you happen to, we've had a few times where, you know, in one session, somebody's hit them all twice or something.
Yes.
And that's great. And you feel good about that. But it's way more common to never hit it.
Yeah. Well, William, congratulations on making 7 stars. And the good news is that because of the pandemic, Caesars is extending the eligibility for that to January 31st, 2022.
Right.
So you're going to be 7 stars up until that point. So this is really the year to try to get it, especially because now I think it's 125,000 tier credits is for 7 stars. So not quite as many tier credits, and you get it for longer.
And you're going to take advantage of some of the comps and giveaways and stuff that they have. So, you know, it is something you can use. Now, don't lose your shirt trying to get 7 stars. I'm going to make that clear.
Yeah.
But if you do have the opportunity, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Next up, our good friend Melanie.
Hello, Mark. Hello, Dr. Mike. It's Melanie from Colorado. Today is June 17th, and at 8 a.m., Colorado casinos opened with many caveats and safety measures in place. Everyone has to wear a mask. Employees, gamblers, people there for the restaurant, everyone. It's required. When you walk in, they have one entrance that you come in, another that you exit. You don't come in the same place. Actually, the first person to greet me at Ameristar in Blackhawk asked me if I wanted to sign a petition for higher table limits and a greater variety of table games. And while I am all for that, his petition was one that people had already signed. It was on a clipboard, and I did not want to touch his clipboard or his pen. So I declined that, but I am all for the idea of it. And maybe we'll get Dr. Mike out here after maybe this petition will bring about some legislative change. There was no line. They asked me if I had symptoms. I said no. There was some kind of a thermometer. It also, had my picture in there, so I don't know if they took my picture also. They asked me for my driver's license and my casino player's card. I gave them those things. I don't know if that's for contact tracing or what, but that was the only casino that asked me for that information. I had one other casino ask me if I wanted to be on a contact tracing list in case anyone tested positive. I thought that was outstanding. So I had my mask on, my N95. I spend all day in a mask at work. It wasn't that different or cumbersome for me, really. Everyone wore their masks. Everyone was compliant as they had to be, and people were great about keeping social distance. At the bars, they are not allowed to serve drinks to people who walk up and would like to buy a drink from the bar. You can sit at the bar, every other machine is turned off, and have a drink at the bar there or order one. Otherwise, you have to order it from a cocktail server. So there was one cocktail server, and she was running around like crazy. The bartender was super busy because he was also making the drinks, including coffee and soda for the restaurant upstairs. Somehow they didn't have drinks, or maybe weren't allowed. I don't know, but poor guy. They went from 3 months off doing nothing to running around like crazy. The cocktail waitress like, my arm hurts so bad from the tray. She asked the manager for some Tylenol, and he had to think about where they put it. Everything was very clean. People were super friendly and happy to be back together. It was really fun to be in the vibe of a casino again. Sadly, no table games. They are going to reevaluate that in 3 weeks and see if they might open table games, poker, craps, blackjack. None yet. Went up to Central City where they have maintained that Old West spirit. All those saloons back in the Wild West heydays, they've tried to maintain those. Furniture, big windows, the spirit of the place. There was a $2,960 Royal Flush Progressive. Oh my goodness, at the bar. So I sat there and tried to hit that one. That was on 25 cent. Deuces Wild. Had several. 4 to the Royals. Anyway, a lot of fun. Really had a great time. I doubt I will be back until things change substantially, but man, I am really glad I got to go back, have a great time. I have done really, truly nothing socially for 3 whole months. I know everyone's in the same boat, but it was really fun to hear everyone catch up and talk to each other. One more thing I forgot to mention. When I went to the last casino, I had moved my car, which had been out in the sun. It was really hot in my car. Went up to the casino door. My temperature read 102.6. So it had jumped over 5 degrees just from sitting in my hot car for 2 minutes. She said that's been happening. She just had me wait a few minutes, cool off, and then it was okay. And one last thing, one interesting part. In the bathrooms, there are typically 3 stalls because these are pretty small casinos generally. There's 2 sinks. They're about 3 feet apart. One of the sinks is off. And so I looked up and there was a sign that said, this sink is off to maintain social distancing, which I totally get because they're only 3 feet apart. However, I'm a little concerned it is going to discourage people from waiting in line to wash their hands because there's only 1 sink for the whole bathroom. So I get it, but I'm not sure about that one. So there you go. It was a great time. I can't wait to hear your show.
Yeah, so
I gotta say, Mark, that's what Jay was doing. He was social distancing from you. You're
that's
at the
right, because
sink.
I was at the sink and he
you're
didn't
at the
want to get
sink.
too close
I
to me.
think your apology is
It is kind of funny. What they probably should do is set up some temporary hand washing stations,
Right.
maybe right outside the restroom or throughout the casino. I think some casinos are doing that, or at least disinfectant stations. But that would be a good way to, encourage people to wash their hands more.
Before we get to Melanie's call here, I gotta say, my brother told me, and I forgot this on our last podcast, that at San Manuel, they have social distancing in the bathrooms. He said every other urinal was blocked off.
Okay, right.
Every other stall was blocked
Wow.
off, and every other sink was blocked off. So you are far apart. Now, that's great, but I'm thinking, yeah, and if I'm in a urinal and I want to just blurt out, I don't remember eating corn, I got to say it pretty loud. So the guy,
Yeah,
2
he might
stalls
not hear
away.
you because he's so far away now.
Because he's so far away now.
Distancing. Yeah. That actually is, I didn't think about that, but that is one of the benefits of all this social distancing is I don't have to hear you talk as much.
Right.
I don't hear, I think Mike said something. I'm not going to ask him to repeat himself.
He ate corn? What? I don't get it. Well, I'm glad Melanie went, and it'd be great if Colorado did up their limits.
Yeah, so for people who don't know what Melanie was talking about, that petition, right now Colorado has a maximum limit of $100 per wager. That's the maximum you can do on any wager. So the petition was to try to raise that.
Yeah, I kind of understand their thinking, but people are going to waste their money in whatever way they deem necessary. So I'm not for like a $5,000 limit or something,
Right.
but you would think a couple thousand would be,
sure. And it would definitely help when it came to poker as well, because,
Right.
at the poker tables, you can't go all in if, you've got more than $100 in front of you, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be hard to play like, 816, no limit hold'em.
Right. It'd be a $100 cap on it. Yeah.
$100 cap, it'd be kind of hard.
We definitely have heard quite a few stories of people having higher than normal temperatures because they've come from a hot car or just in Las Vegas where it's hot outside and, they're walking in. So that definitely,
that happens every day in my office.
Oh, does it?
We take everyone's temperature. And we've been having them stand outside because our waiting room's kind of small.
Right.
So we say, just call us when you get here. And she goes out and she gives them the questionnaire. She takes their temperature. And we've had people, like 102 and
Right.
stuff. And it's like, okay, well, come in and stand in the waiting. They come in, they stand in for 30 seconds, and all of a sudden it's 97.1.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they probably got her ID the first place for contact tracing.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Sure.
Because if there was some problem, let's say you didn't even use your player card or something, or, they wouldn't take the time, but if they have everyone's ID,
Right. They've up front. They're ready for it.
They're ready for it. That's the best I've heard.
Yeah, that's great.
Because that is very important. And that's the problem in the United States right now. We don't do enough contact tracing as opposed to Europe and stuff.
I think the American philosophy is kind of like, I have my right to privacy, right? And so, you're not going to take my information because you're going to use it against me, right?
Right. And I'm not that I'm against that. I kind of agree with that too. But in this case, it is important. And I would want to know if there was some outbreak.
Yeah, I would too. All right, next call.
Good morning, gentlemen. This is Corey from Fargo, North Dakota. Heading back out to Vegas tomorrow, June 19th. Haven't been there since the Super Bowl, in which I did send in a karma donation to you guys. And I also was talking about video poker at the time and how in my 40 trips to Vegas, I had only hit 4 deuces one time. Well, it just happened again this past trip. I was playing quarters at the bar, probably sitting there for about 4 or 5 hours. This lady to my left was playing the aces, and she kept on hitting 4 aces, $100, $100, $200, $200 at a time. I was getting down to my last $30 or something like that, and we had a top golf appointment in about half hour, and so I upped it up to $1 a spin. Anyway, it was a grand I hit, so that was good. And then on the props on the Super Bowl, cashed about twice as much as I bet on, so that was a good trip too. So I did another karma donation for this trip, so I expect the same results. And I hope to give a good update on what Vegas is like. For me, I don't like people that much, so I think it'll be just fine. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yeah, thanks again. We mentioned his karma donation on our last episode, so hopefully it worked out for him. I'm worried, though. It seems like when people say, all right, I'm going to call back, and let you know how it goes, it seems like more often than not on this show, kind of like William's call earlier, they call back and it didn't go very well.
Yeah. Well, maybe we've turned a new leaf, Mark. Maybe he'll call back and say, oh my God, another huge win.
Okay, I hope so.
Said he didn't like people, so if he doesn't call back, I'm assuming he just doesn't like us. Not that he lost. I'm just going to assume he doesn't like us.
All right, let's hear from Asher.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. My name's Asher. I'm calling from New Mexico. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone calling from New Mexico about a casino trip report for you. I went last night, and in New Mexico, we're still under some pretty heavy restrictions. We have, I think, 2 casinos open out of our maybe 10 or 15. I'm really fortunate that I live about within an hour radius. I'm probably about 9 casinos I could go to. But this particular one I went to last night started at the craps table. I'm a relatively new player. I'm pretty young and wanted to start out with a few hundred. Started to play, and, the table was really cold. I wasn't doing too hot. I came off the craps table, decided to play the slot machine for a little while. Came back up to where I had originally started with and went back to the craps table and almost doubled my money, so I got out while I could. The casino is following pretty much the same restrictions that you guys have been talking about for the ones in Vegas and in California. They have the plexiglass between every single slot machine, so people can still use every slot machine. They didn't have any turned off. At the craps table, they had everyone wiped before they called you to come up and play, because of course there was a wait list with the one casino open. They wiped everything down for you. There were, like you said, only 2 dealers, and they would alternate being the stick man. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a call. I'm a big fan of your podcast, and relatively new fan, but a big fan. I got all my friends into your podcast, and now we listen on a bi-weekly basis. Thanks. Keep doing what you do, and hopefully you can play my call. Thanks.
Oh, good. Thanks, Asher.
Thanks.
Yeah, longtime listeners will know that Dr. Taylor is really our New Mexico expert, although it does seem when he calls in, it's mostly for Las Vegas reports.
Right, he goes to Vegas quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, waiting list for the tables, that's something that we have heard some casinos are doing. It is not being done. They're not even making an attempt at Harrah, Southern California, and they probably should, at least during certain times.
Yeah, I don't get that. I asked about it, and they said, no, we don't have a list. And I don't know. Maybe it brings in more controversy than it helps.
I guess, but if
people who said I was
you've got
here
a number,
first,
though.
But yeah, I think they should have a list.
Yeah.
And it'd be easy to do, easy enough to do.
Yeah. Maybe we should hope they don't get a list, only because, when they see you, their eyes light up and it's like, ooh, Dr. Mike's here. Let's get him on the table.
Can't get bumped to the top of the list. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe they think someone will want to pay us off to bump
that's
up,
true.
Bump up to the list.
We don't want to make Dr. Mike mad.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Next up is our buddy Ryan.
Hey guys, Ryan from Las Vegas. Just wanted to give you an update on what's going on in some of the local casinos around here. I noticed that they have a lot of these new crap machine places where it's kind of like a shoot to win. Everybody sits around in a circle and everyone has their own screen to bet on, but each person has their own little dice inside a cube, and so each person's playing their own game. So there's 6 seats, and then everybody has their own dice, and you play your own game of craps, but it's just like a mini shoot to win. Also, I noticed a lot of these casinos here are trying to cut down on the no-touch for the chips. So what one casino here has been doing, a local casino here, they've been basically using roulette chips where you walk up to the table and you cash in, and each person is being assigned their own color of chips. That way, another person is never touching your same color. The only person that ever touches it is you and the dealer. So, you cash in and someone gets a pink, someone gets brown, someone gets blue, and, you throw them around and it's only you and the dealer touching them. But it doesn't really make sense to me because each time the dealer's touching each other's chips and then they're touching different colors and then they're going back to the person. So it still doesn't make a lot of sense, but I think they're just trying to cut down on the frequent touch. I'm not really sure how that went, but my first time playing with it, I bought in for $500 and I cashed out at a little over $4,000 because I had a guy hit the all tall, all small twice in the same roll. It was a monster roll, and I know he hit, I think, 4 different hard sixes in his first roll. It was nice. Dr. Mike would have made a lot of money. I made some good money, but not quite as much as I'm pretty sure he would. Hard six, definitely your friend. Anyways, I don't know if this is new to you guys, but I hope it's interesting to you. All right, guys, be safe.
Thanks, Ryan.
Ryan actually sent us a follow-up email to let us know that station casinos in Las Vegas area are no longer rating table game players.
Yeah, I saw that. Boy, does that make sense at all?
I just don't understand that. I mean, all you're going to do is chase table game players away. I mean, if you want to be just a slot joint, be just a slot joint. But
right. Why even have table games if you're not going to rate them?
Is that their way to make up for losses during their closure? I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, because it's going to, who it's going to chase away is the bigger bettors, the heavier gamblers. A regular guy, he's like, what difference does it make? I'm going to play $40 or something. But some guy who's buying in for $5,000, he wants to get rated because, you want some comms.
Well, gosh, Mike, even lower limit players, if I were a lower limit player, I probably wouldn't play there either because I like getting just a free meal every once in a while. Just something, right? Even if it's just, $5 free play every week or something, right?
But sure. And most of the station casinos are locals.
Right. They're local casinos.
They're local casinos. They're locals. And they're looking for the, like you said, the free meal once a week or, the free giveaway or whatever. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. No. It seems like a bad business model to me.
Yeah, well, hopefully that will change. It's interesting what Ryan was saying about what they're trying out with the chips, where they're giving people what is essentially roulette chips. So, Mike, you would only have blue chips. I would only have yellow chips.
Yeah, but what denomination?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're at a craps table, Mike.
Right, you can't do that at a craps table.
If you buy in for $3,000, well, you're going to have some $5 denominations because maybe you're placing the 6 for $30,
no, they'd have
right?
to give me all 5s because...
That's the thing, all 5s, right?
Right, because when they pay... If I had the $30 6, I get $35. Well, if I bought in for green chips, what are they going to do? Up it to just give me $50 or lower it just $25?
Yeah.
I mean, neither one is really good for the casino.
I can kind of understand it at other table games, blackjack and that kind of thing, right?
But even at blackjack, how do you do it if you're playing a 3-2 game?
Yeah, sure.
Or even a 6-5 game, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
And ultimately, it's like Ryan said, okay, you're the only one touching those chips along with the dealer, but the dealer's touching everybody's chips. Yeah, so I don't think that
pathway of transmission is broken there. That's not.
And we haven't played on those individual craps machines, but we've seen them at least online. I think the D has them, the Strat. But kind of a good way to go if you don't.
I think I'd like that more than
regular bubble craps.
Than a regular bubble craps.
Yeah, especially if there weren't a time limit. I think it'd be good.
Because there wouldn't have to be a time limit,
right? There wouldn't have to be,
because you're not waiting for any other people or anything. So you'd have plenty of time. I'd see now that I might play.
Okay.
Although once again, it's not going to be as much fun because hard 6 comes up on that. You're the only one that bet it or didn't bet it, right? Because it's only your game.
No, you and I both like the social aspect of the game, even if it's just socializing with the dealers. So,
right. Yeah. Craps would not be as fun for me if I had to pay super strict attention and couldn't, turn around and yell as loud as I can into your ear something stupid.
Right.
Right. The craps woun't be fun.
Which luckily I don't have to hear as often now because, again, thanks to the social distancing.
I don't know. Didn't I yell something into your ear?
It was pretty loud. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it was loud.
These masks don't stop. I mean, They can still hear me across the casino.
All right, next call.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Bob. This is Arizona Wally calling in. Been playing quite a bit here lately in Arizona, California, and Nevada. One thing I noticed is some of the casinos are taking temperatures. Some are not. Some require masks. Some are not. The question is, when I first started post-COVID and the casinos opened up, seemed to be hitting quite a bit of jackpots, hit quite a few hand pays on video poker. No royal flushes post-COVID yet. But the question is, you mentioned on your last podcast that you were a little bit, haven't been hitting as much here lately. Just want to see what everyone else's thoughts were. You know, I hit quite a few hand pays once they opened up and went on a dry spell, hit quite a few here recently and back on that dry spell again. Again, no royal flushes, a lot of quads with kickers for decent hand pays, but that's about it. Hope you all are doing good. Thanks for what you're doing. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Bye.
Yeah, you know, if casinos loosened up at all once they reopened, they could only loosen up their slots. You can't loosen up table games. You can't even loosen up video poker. Now, you can make the pay tables better on video poker, but if they're class 3 machines, you can't set them to hit royal flushes or four of a kinds or anything like that more often.
Right.
So the only thing would be slots, and that's possible that it's happened. But no, you know, like with you and me, Mike, I mean, we've just been unlucky this year.
Right.
Certainly you can't loosen up a craps table.
No,
so
I mean, you know, we're kind of confined to the role, whatever the role is.
Yep.
I like that he goes by Arizona Wally, though.
Yeah, that's a great
that's a great
name, yeah.
moniker. Every time I hear the name Wally, I think of Crocodile Dundee because Wally was the name of his friend back in Australia.
Oh, gosh.
The older guy.
Okay. It's been a while.
And they called him like Wally, but it was Wally from the little area they were. It was like Glitter Gulch. It wasn't Glitter Gulch, but it was something like that.
Gosh.
Glitter Gulch Wally.
When I hear Wally, I think of Wally Cox, which really shows my age.
There you go. Yeah.
He was on Hollywood Squares.
He was. I liked Wally Cox.
Yeah, he was Mr. Peepers. I'm actually too young to remember that.
Right.
But
Well, we know that.
He was quite a character actor, during the 60s and 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, you think of Wall-E.
Yeah, Wall-E. That's what I thought you were going to say. It reminds me of Wall-E.
No, that old guy from Crocodile Dundee. He was my favorite part of those movies.
All right. Well, if you like Arizona Wall-E, I know you like Mississippi Rob.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's a favorite.
He's a favorite. He's a regular. Here we go.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike, this is Mississippi Rob, just calling with the trip report from Biloxi, Mississippi. I guess it was a couple weeks ago now. Me and my wife met some friends down there for a couple nights stay. It was actually our first trip staying at the hotel there. Nothing real fancy on that side of things, but it got the job done. On the gambling aspect of it, the first night got to play some $10 pie gal with the very few folks allowed at each table. Actually got to play a couple hands at a time and pretty much got crushed right off the bat there. Did a little chasing, ran over to the high limit video poker, got crushed there as well. So we made it a quick night on night one, but made a strong comeback on day two. Actually went over to the video poker bar there by myself actually. And normally I've just played quarter video poker, but decided to throw 20, 25 bucks in the machine, just give it a go real quick while I was watching a soccer game, and actually ended up rolling that 25 bucks into, I think it was a little over 800 bucks after I hit 3 different four of a kind. So that was definitely one of my bigger wins and a big highlight there for the trip. Lost a little of it back later that night across video poker as we introduced some of our friends to a little bit of gambling. My buddy's wife, it was her first trip. She wasn't too impressed with the pie gal, but once they got to playing some video poker, it was a little bit more entertaining, I guess, for a new person to gambling there. Outside of the gambling, the pool setup there, it was really nice. The drinks were reasonably priced, and actually it was a nice change up from Vegas because there really wasn't any security around or anything else. So any drinks that we had from the casino bar or from the room or anything else, we just kind of walked right in with it, no big deal. So it was kind of nice and relaxing and not too expensive either. The other kind of noteworthy thing for the trip, and I just kind of came upon it as I was sitting there playing video poker one day, but when the bartender asked for my card as I asked for a drink before I'd even started playing, and apparently there, and I don't know if it had to do with the Diamond Lounge being closed, but just by showing my Diamond card, they would give me a free drink anytime I wanted, so I'd just go up there. And so from the point that I realized it through the rest of the trip, I'd just go up there and tip them every time, but I didn't even have to put money in the machine. So that was a really nice benefit there, too. I'm not sure if that's always the case, but at least it was for now. And so that was a really nice break there. So anyways, great overall trip. It was really nice to get back into the casino and even bring back a little extra money on top of that. So it's good talking to y'all. Hope everything's going well. Talk to y'all soon.
Good report.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And that's really good information, too. You know, a lot of Caesars properties are making up for their Laurel lounges being closed. They used to be called Diamond Lounges. Now they're called Laurel Lounges. In fact, Daryl at the 7 Stars Insider website posted a list of some of the things the casinos are offering 7 Stars players to make up for what they're missing. For example, at Harrah, Southern California, as 7 Stars members, we got 2 free buffets every day.
Right.
And since their buffet is closed now we get a $40 food credit each week. So that's the way they're making up for that. But it's always good to ask what a property might be offering customers to make up for the lounges being closed. So yeah, just especially at the bar.
Yeah.
Say, hey, you know, is your Laurel Lounge open? Oh, it's not. You know, what are you doing in lieu of it being available to Diamond players?
Yeah. And actually, that's great. Just get a free drink for a tip.
Yep. And boy, $10 Pai Gow poker at a table with 3 players maximum?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's unbelievable, really.
I know.
mean,
I
the casino is not making money on that table.
Wow, that's great.
That probably is not enough to pay the dealers.
Wouldn't
right?
think so. A game that slow?
Yeah.
Although Rob did say he was playing 2 hands, so maybe he was playing 20 on each, but still.
Right. This is actually the limited number of seats at a table now is great for people who like to play 2 hands.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can
yeah.
always play 2 hands.
Yeah, you're
right?
right.
Sometimes you're at a table and it's like, it's kind of crowded and you feel like a jerk if you play 2 hands because people are wanting to play and stuff. So now it's like, oh, play 2 hands.
Yeah, it's nice. All right, next call.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Alex from Atlanta, Georgia. Hope y'all are doing well. Just wanted to call and give a brief trip report. I was finally able to get out to Harrah's Cherokee Casino in North Carolina, and I lost, but I've never felt so great losing since I was able to end a 4-month drought of not playing. The conditions are pretty good. Everybody's required to wear a mask, whether you're just standing around or you're playing, so that made me feel somewhat safe. 3 people per side at the craps table and 3 people at the blackjack table. There's no plexiglass dividers, but all in all, it felt good. Just wanted to let people know that are contemplating going to Cherokee. They have it pretty much under control with the mask. It's not optional, even though I just heard that all of Caesar's property is not requiring the mask, so it's a good thing. Anyways, hope y'all are doing well. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, masks now are mandatory for players as well in Las Vegas. You know, when they first opened, it was encouraged, but optional.
And I had heard from people who had been there that not very many people were wearing masks.
Right.
I mean, as far as players, the staff's all was, but players were not.
Right.
And that has changed.
And people may have heard, too, there was a Caesars Palace employee who recently died from the virus. I was able to verify, Mike, we were talking about this last week. He did work at Caesars Palace. He was apparently part of the janitorial staff.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, this thing is not over.
Right. Well, and once again, as a courtesy and as a help to your fellow man, you need to cover up.
Yep, exactly.
It's all about the other person.
Yeah, right.
And bottom line, that's it. Bottom line.
I agree. All right, one more call. It's from our good friend Marty.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. Marty from Reno with an update on gaming during a pandemic. So, as I mentioned last time I called in, all of the dice tables here were only 2 dealers. The 2 base dealers, no stickman. What they've now done is they've now added the stickman back on the evening shift. So on the swing shift, they've added them back in. I was talking to one of the pit bosses here, and he said that not having a stickman, even though there was only 6 people at the table, was slowing them down when there was a lot of middle action. Makes sense.
Yep.
And since those bets are the best for the house, they wanted to speed them back up, so they added the stickman back in. So that's thing number 1. Thing number 2 that happened last Friday night at a unnamed casino, but again, you can guess there's only a dozen of them or so here in Reno that have craps. At 7 p.m., at one of the tables, they announced that they were now going to 4 players per end. You know, I thought that the Gaming Commission had mandated only 3 on an end, but I'm happy they did it. I was actually at the table at the time, and they squeezed another guy in. Not really squeezing, but anyway, 4 to an end, and we played that way for hours, and no one has said anything. I'll go back out this weekend and see if they're still like that. It looks like there's still 3 to an end on day shift and 4 to an end on swing shift at this particular casino. Anyway, I'll call you again next week. Love the show, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
I don't think gaming in Nevada mandated that 3 was the max on each side of the craps table. I think the casinos had to provide the safety procedures to gaming
Right.
to get approvals to reopen. And it might be at their discretion, but I don't think it was a mandate. It is interesting, though, Mike, because a couple weeks ago, you looked at me and you said, how long do you think it'll be until they allow 4 players on each side of the table here at Harrah, Southern California?
Right.
And you thought it might have been this last Saturday when they had the big crowds, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I was really surprised. The people waiting, I'm surprised they didn't say, okay, let's let 4 aside. Because you could still be fairly far apart with 4. 5, no.
No,
But
right.
4, you probably could. And as long as none of those 4 people had any complaints
Right.
about it, you would think the casino would have done that. But they stuck to their guns, so I'm kind of proud of them for that.
You think it's still coming, though?
I think it's
soon?
coming. I think it's coming. I think when we talked about that, there hadn't been quite as much of an uprise as there is now.
Yeah, that's true, too.
And
Yeah.
so that kind of has changed things a little. So it might be a little further off than I think. But at that point, I was thinking, they'll go a few weeks, and if things aren't bad, they'll up to 4.
Yeah, I could understand it. But I'll tell you, even though we don't like the fact that we might not find a spot when we first arrive at the casino, I love having all that room.
We like having that room. And I love it's a fast game.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it goes fast.
Even with all your stupid bets, it's a fast game.
The dealers are used to handling 6 people, and so some of the less adequate dealers, let's put it that way.
That's a nice way. Okay,
are still pretty fast.
Yes, no, you're
and
right.
I love that fast game. Now, does that help us? Probably not.
How about definitely not? I can tell you that, right?
That probably doesn't help us, but I do like it.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Hey, we want to thank some people for some PayPal donations. First of all, recurring donations from Brian and Sarah, from Josh, from James, and also some donations from Matt from Tennessee. He says, Karma donation for my wife on her last dental clinical boards this weekend, and for the craps tables on my upcoming trip to Caesars, Southern Indiana, July 17th. I've decided to parlay every Hardway hit in honor of Dr. Mike. Sorry, Mark. Hey, don't say sorry to me. You play however you want. So hopefully,
when he does hit all those Hardways, Mark,
yeah,
I hope he's like, in your face, Mark.
And also a donation from Thomas. He says, thanks for all the work you do on the pod. Karma, as I'm headed to local East Coast casinos for the first time this week. Have a Vegas trip planned for early August. Hope it still goes through. Yeah, we hope so too, Thomas. Thanks very much.
Yep.
Hey, be sure to check out our TV listing showing all the gambling-related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks at youcanbetonThat.com/TV-listings and our list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonThat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at youcanbetonThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/youcanbetonThat. Finally, please go to your favorite podcast app and write a review on us. We love getting your feedback. What do you have for us at the end of the show, Dr. Mike?
Well, how was my grammar, first off?
Well, I didn't catch any major errors tonight.
Nice.
How about that?
Oh, nice. I was a little self-conscious the whole episode about my grammar. You know that's not true. Yeah, I don't know. There's not much to say, Mark. We may have baseball, we may not. We may have basketball, we may not. We may have football, we may not. We might have school, we might not. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we did talk on the last episode about how we would love to go to Circa for their casino opening in October.
Right.
And we are seriously considering that. Now, it'll depend on how things, play out, but we're really looking towards those dates now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, normally I'd be, okay, we're going.
Sure.
But I can't right now because I don't even know how work's going to go. I mean,
yes.
if the governor closes us down again or something, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
So as time gets closer, I think by maybe September, the end of the summer, we'll have a better idea.
Yeah.
But I would like to go to that, and then I would like to go in December
for the great gift wrap-up.
Yeah. So those are the two things I'm looking for. Yeah. And I don't know, usually that's the same time as the rodeo, and that's a big deal. That probably won't happen this year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, you got to social distance from all the cattle and horses.
Sure. Yeah. I do that anyway, just in my everyday life.
I try and social distance from bucking broncos. That's the thing I social distance
It's a good way to live your life.
Right. Or at least wear a mask when you're on the back of one of those babies.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
Oh, sweet mother, I love you, Dr. Mike.